All right, if you're using TradingView for your algorithmic trading, you need to listen up. The jump from PineScript v5 to v6, it isn't just a simple update. We're talking about a complete overhaul here, one that could totally change how your strategies perform. So let's break down exactly what this evolution means for your code and, for your bottom line.
And to help us navigate this, we're leaning on the insights of a pro, Jayadev Rana. Now, this guy has deployed over 7,700 strategies. So yeah, when he says something is a critical shift, the entire trading community pays attention. His insights are really the backbone of what we're about to cover.
Okay, here's the plan for today. First, we'll dive into the single biggest change at the heart of V6, what we're calling its dynamic leap. Then, we'll get into 4 absolute game-changing features: dynamic scanners that are on another level, a huge speed boost, the end of that super frustrating trade limit, and some really slick upgrades to your code and charts. And finally, we'll wrap it up by making the case for why upgrading isn't just an option, it's pretty much a must. So, let's kick things off with the absolute heart of the V6 update. And look, this isn't just some new feature, it's a fundamental change in philosophy. We're basically moving away from that old, rigid, static way of doing things and stepping into a world where our scripts can finally think and adapt on the fly.
So, here's the key takeaway. In the past, PineScript was, static. Your code ran the same exact way, from top to bottom, every single time. Version 6 completely shatters that model. It introduces a dynamic execution flow. What does that mean? It means you can build way smarter strategies, and honestly, it's the core idea that powers all the awesome new features we're about to get into.
Okay, so how does this whole dynamic shift thing actually work in practice? Well, let's look at the first major feature, which is dynamic data requests. And trust me, this completely changes the game for market scanning.
This slide really nails the difference. In v5, if you wanted to pull data from another stock or crypto, you had to declare it right at the top of your script. It was set in stone. v6 just blows that limitation away. Now, you can actually request data from inside a loop or an if statement. This means your script can decide which symbols to analyze based on what's happening in the market, right this second. It's adaptive.
And this is what enables what Rana calls ticker tape style indicators. Just picture this, a single script on your chart that can cycle through a list of, say, 50 different stocks, dynamically checking conditions for each one without you needing to hard code all 50 tickers beforehand. The efficiency gain here is it's huge.
As Jayadev Rana puts it, and I think this is perfect, this is the death of brute force coding. It means no more writing these clunky, super inefficient scripts just to build a decent market scanner. Instead, you can create these lean, smart, adaptive tools that respond to what the market is actually doing.
So, beyond just dynamic data, V6 also delivers a massive boost in raw performance. And it's all thanks to a cool computer science concept called Boolean short-circuit evaluation.
The idea behind this is something called lazy evaluation, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Your script basically won't do any more work than it absolutely has to. If it can figure out the answer to a logical question early, it just stops processing and moves on. It saves a ton of time and resources.
Here's a super simple example of how it works. Let's say your code needs to check if condition A and condition B are both true. In v6, the script first checks condition A. Now, if it finds that condition A is false, well, it already knows the entire statement can't possibly be true, right? So it short circuits. It completely skips even looking at condition B, saving precious computation time on every single bar.
So, what does this actually mean for your trading? It's simple: speed. Your backtests are going to run way faster. But even more importantly, the execution latency of your live strategies will drop. That means your script reacts quicker to market data, and that split second can absolutely be the difference between a winning and a losing trade.
All right, let's talk about a feature that gets rid of one of the most frustrating roadblocks in PineScript v5, the dreaded trade limit. Version 6 introduces something called order trimming to finally break this chain.
Oh man, anyone who's ever run a high-frequency strategy knows this number all too well: 9,000. In v5, your strategy would just stop working after it hit 9,000 trades. It would crash. Your alerts would go silent. It was a huge pain. Well, that barrier is now officially a thing of the past. The new system is simple, but it's incredibly powerful. As your strategy gets close to the limit, v6 automatically trims, or you can think of it as removing, the oldest trade data from its memory. This makes room for new ones. And the result? Your high-frequency bots, your scalping strategies, they can finally run indefinitely without ever crashing again. It's a game changer.
Okay, next up, let's look at 2 upgrades that just improve the whole day-to-day experience, both for developers and for users. We're talking about smarter code and much clearer, more professional-looking charts. I mean, this comparison really says it all. To get the last item from an array in V5, you had to write out this clunky array.size-1 formula, which, let's be honest, was a common source of bugs. In V6, you just ask for index-1. That's it. It's cleaner, it's way more intuitive, and it's far less likely to cause an error. It seems like a small change, but it makes a huge difference in how readable and reliable your code is.
And it's not just the code on the back end that got an upgrade. The stuff you actually see on the chart got a boost too. With new support for bold and italic formatting, plus standard point sizes for fonts, you can now build some truly professional, institutional-grade dashboards right on your chart. Things that are both powerful and actually easy to read. Okay, so we've seen all these powerful new features. Let's bring it all together and talk about the V6 upgrade imperative. Basically, why making this transition isn't just a good idea, but why it's pretty much necessary.
This is really the question every single PineScript developer needs to be asking themselves right now. With the huge performance gains from lazy evaluation and the incredible power of dynamic scanners, are your old V5 scripts leaving speed, efficiency, and maybe even profits on the table? Because if you're not upgrading, the answer is probably yes.
And that brings us to the final, and maybe most crucial point. Upgrading to PineScript V6 is about so much more than just getting a few new tools. It's a strategic move. It's about building faster, more efficient, and way more intelligent trading systems. And really, it's about making sure your code is ready for the future of algorithmic trading, whatever that may bring.